Well. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
This is the Cube Bois, and I am Jeremy.
And I'm Akeem.
We are reviewing George M. Johnson's book. Also, we are on chapter 13.
13. We're wrapping it up. Chapter 13.
Called
Setting Myself Free or Setting Myself Up.
Let Us Begin.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this chapter, George talks about their experience graduating from high school and transitioning into university. Not only a university, an HBC, which is a historically black college university.
Mm-hmm. The first question I was going to ask, because it was interesting how George recounts high school graduation. Like,
I was going to say the same thing.
I'm ready to get it over with. Let's go. I already can taste my grandma cooking. Like, let's get this show on the road. So do you remember high school graduation?
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
So because I was in the band, I performed at graduations before. I know he mentioned Popular Circumstance. Everyone knows that. Played that, and then it's like, oh, it's my turn. Now, the thing about my high school graduation, it was at a college. And so it was like, oh wow, and it was nice. As far as the ceremony, I didn't really recount a lot of that because I was ready to wrap up high school, therefore wrapping up my childhood and adolescence, because unlike some of y'all, I was ready to be an adult. And not in the sense of like, oh, I'm just ready. I was ready for what George was talking about, finding identity and freedom. I was ready to get out under the scrutiny, the judgment, the shame, the guilt. I was like, because I know once I'm grown, I can be me and I can express myself. But anyways, in terms of high school graduation, all that stuff there is like, okay, it's cute. I was there. I had a bunch of ropes because I was a bunch of
smart and involved.
No. But
I ain't have ropes.
I had ropes. I maybe had like a 3.2 GPA.
Smart and involved. I ain't have ropes. I ain't even sniff a 3.
I was just trying to.
Let's call a thing a thing.
I was trying to find my place.
Smart and involved. That's what I hear.
Anyways, the thing I remember most is my family, because we all went to my mom's house, because my mom is the nanny's house, grandma's house, mama's house, nana's house. She's that house for at least my mom's side, because size again is very small. My dad's side came up. And I'm not going to share those details. Maybe that'll be for the Patreon whenever we get that set up. Because that was and I may have already talked about it, so it may not be a secret. But it was a story. But I mainly remember my family because they didn't have any friends. And we just hung out at my mom's house, and it was like, okay, first grandchild to graduate. Let's see what you're gonna do as you're an adult. And here I am. What do you remember?
I guess the highlight of my life during that time for high school graduation, that was the first time I got to meet my oldest nephew. So yeah, my sister brought my 2-week-old nephew to my graduation. Huh?
The first time. Did she already move by the time you?
I think she did.
Okay.
So yeah, I want to say that was like the first time I met my nephew was at my high school graduation. It's like, oh, yes, this is what you get. You're an uncle. Become an uncle. But I was only there. I went to 3 different high schools in my senior year. Yeah, that wasn't the breadth and depth of all the high schools. I went to 3 different high schools. I'm spiraling. My head is just on a swivel. So definitely the transition from high school to college was just like needed for me, but it was so much.
But it all makes sense of why you did so well in college in terms of
somewhat.
When I say did so well, being able to remain there and actually get grounded in your university.
I mean, I was, like I think of plants. I was feeding to set my roots down somewhere.
That's what I'm saying.
It was just like I was just in a puddle of water, educational puddle of water, and it's like there was no soil anywhere for me to. So once it was there, it was like
Elizabeth City
I
was
wasn't
like,
going. You ain't gonna get rid of me.
Open and fertile field.
Yeah,
and you were like, I'm been to
this
get
is
all these.
I've been up. I've been down. I can't get away from talking about that lady.
Well, we're gonna circle back to her. We're gonna talk about that one.
But yeah, that was like one thing on one hand, and then as my life has been a pattern of things, as someone who has always seemed to be a day late and a dollar short, my father was not able to make it into the graduation because he was late.
Oh, that was my same story.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but my entire family lives in the same state. There was no excuse.
Oh, well,
in my opinion, in my honest opinion.
I mean, to be fair, there is.
So
I'm your son,
and you were notified. So yeah, that was my graduation. I think mine was pretty much a blur. I don't know who talked about what was the people that were involved. I was there. I just remember going through the process. I was like, I think by that time I knew. I don't know if I knew.
Where you going?
No, I think I did, because there's this story, and when this blows up, someone could find the clip. I was featured on 106 in Park. They were talking about, like, they was just highlighting students that got accepted into schools. The school that I talked about me being accepted into, someone told me about. This is the thing, that particular episode I did not watch. My living situation, somehow, some way, I was not able to watch TV, and I missed it. No. We were like, you submit photos and stuff about yourself. I guess that was like a little claim to fame. So maybe somebody could tell me if they remember that episode. But I did not mention Elizabeth City State University because I don't think I heard back from them by then. It was another school, but yeah. So
did you apply to most of the HCUs, or were you just like applying to what?
Yeah and no. Like, I mean, after I would say yes, but like I ended up, I mean, we can talk about that as well. I ended up at Elizabeth City because of my friend. And
I'll share how I ended up at Howard.
Yeah. So that was high school. That was high school graduation. You wanna go to the next question? Next question.
So George initially talked about wanting to go to.
It says my first choice was the University of Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
You can search it. I think University of Tennessee is the.
You're right.
It's just okay. So, yeah. It was the goal for George at the time was to get away, as far as the way to live their life, to be this beautiful butterfly.
So that was me. Mm-hmm. Once again, I did not necessarily enjoy a lot of, like, from middle school on. I didn't enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I was like, I feel so. I know how the cage bird sings. I just was like, oh my God. I know I won't have to deal with this once I'm an adult. I'm not saying I won't have problems.
Side question. So, I mean, I think we talked about it. So, you know what a cage bird sings. When was the first time you ever had like some type of freedom with your sexuality? Like,
I was getting that.
Oh, okay. I mean, because for some reason, because of my living situation in my life, I remember times when I was still in high school that I was able to go to the gay club. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And that for me was just like, oh, I want this for myself all the time. Like outside of the club, just living.
I can see it, but because I was so wrapped up in the church during that time, because I had a spiritual awakening in high school where I was just like, I'm trying to discover something.
I'm going to make it to heaven.
And yes, because there was a lot of shame.
I think mine was so much younger. I just kind of.
I mean, it was always there, but it was just like, what are you going to do about it? at this point because it's like I was going to church when I was younger, and I knew, and I went through experiences when I was. The first big hit was maybe when I was 11, and that was a whole thing, and to where I've always been a reserved person, but I felt like I was very talkative in school, and I was like more expressive. Once the big hit, like 11 and 12, boom, boom, and for I still haven't. I've within recent years recovered from that, but during high school it was particularly challenging because going through your growing up hormones, puberty, social acceptance, and I was like, where can I find a safe haven? And like we've talked about before on the podcast, the Sweet Heat by the Cube Bois.
Yeah,
check that out. Our next episode will be on something very special. Oh yeah, I found a safe haven in the church because I was like, it's familiar. Now, was this also a source of a lot of my pain? Absolutely, because a lot of the things that brought on the shame were the origins were from the church, and I was just like, but I know this is where salvation is. So let me figure out what that means for me. Let me develop my relationship with God to see if I can.
I don't think your mic is on.
Oh. We just had to do a little switcheroo. Not paying attention sometimes. I had a lot going on in high school in terms of me trying to figure out my place with spirituality, especially with what I knew to be spirituality, religion, Christianity. So I did a lot of. I was reading. I was on fire for the Lord. People will always be like, "Oh my God, you remind me of your granddad," because my granddad used to preach. He was a minister, so it's just like, "Oh, we see the promise," and I'm like, I don't even know if I have the authority or the space or the allowance to even get into that kind of position, even if I were interested, because of what I got going on
internally,
and basically with how y'all view me based on who I choose to be with. So all that to say, when they made the decision to go to university, I also felt the same way. I said, I got to get the hell out of Dodge. I got to get out of here. I got to go as far as I can. And through the help of someone very special during that time, my girlfriend. I know. I 6 hours away. I was like, absolutely. Absolutely. To be far away from all of that so that I can have some space and some peace to be me. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was the plan. And I was ready. Even with all that I was going through in my head and in my heart. Because it's not like I had such a terrible life or this, that, and third. I'm not trying to, compare and contrast, because some people be going through it. And that's a story for a different time. But in terms of how I was feeling, I was ready to go. I was ready to leave my home state, my city. I didn't want to go. Just like George was mentioning, everybody kind of
stay at home.
People want to stay nearby, go to the community colleges, go to the big universities or big HBCUs within the state. And I was like, I don't want to see y'all again. I don't want to be nowhere near y'all. Let me go away. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. Being in Washington, D.C., and experiencing all of that culture, all of that architecture, all of that music, all of that vibe, all of that food. It was amazing. But what about you?
So I knew very early on that I did have aspirations to get into healthcare, the medical field. And the only main research that I did, I knew about HBCU since middle school. Shout out to Rockame and shout out to my advisors, Big B in Wilmington,
That's good,
and my other advisor. I knew about that because they took us to Atlanta and like took a group trip. Like Rockame was like a group for African American children that were like interested in engineering and all the smart stuff. And so me and my sister went. She did it. She toured Spelman. I toured Morehouse. I had my mindset on that until I got realistic. I was like, oh, this costs lots of money.
I mean, to be fair, Howard did too. I had a big scholarship, but I also was just like,
I ain't have all that.
I don't care the price of that. I mean, I didn't know what money was.
I knew we were poor. Poor. When I say poor. Okay,
check out episode 2. It'll be out soon.
It's the type of poor, you breathe like poor. Okay,
you gotta say it like Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah, I mean,
I was poor.
When I say poor, oh wait, was it Jennifer Hudson? Whoever did the "You ain't got no money"? I don't know whoever did that. Either way, we were poor, so that started to click in my mind about like college choices. Before that,
business minded. He's a smart one, let me tell you.
So Morehouse was kind of put on the back burner. I always had like an affinity for HBCUs, but Morehouse always I had an affinity for it because this was the love for it, quote unquote. I would say it grew out of the fact that like me learning about who MLK was. I don't know what it is, and it may be something that is so deeply rooted, we will have to figure this out and explore it and discover it somehow, some way. So yeah, like I said, I was just saying like I had an affinity for HBCUs before I knew what it was because I had an affinity for MLK, and so MLK Day just passed, so of course it's coming out after that, but I just knew, I'm just like, oh, this is something deep, this is something important. And then when I found out who MLK was, where he went to school, stuff like that, I was like, oh, this just aligns because I want to be like that. Like, I just want to make a difference and be positive and be impactful. So that was part of it. And then, like I said, once I got realistic, I saw the numbers. I was like, ooh, I might need to stay close. But the flip side of that was, I also knew what I wanted to do. And like I said, I wanted to be involved in healthcare in such a manner that I wanted to go to med school. And one of the schools that I learned about was Xavier. They had a propensity, if you will, for sending, being the number one school that was their claim to fame, if you will. There's other things that Xavier does. I'm pretty sure they do well. But one thing that they have made a record and a note of is they are the number one school in this country that sends minorities to med school. So I was like, oh, that's where I'm going to go. Now that's when I the cost and everything went out of my mind. And that was Xavier University of Louisiana. But my mom gave me the same conversation that George's mom gave him. Just in case something happens. You can't be that far, man. That's too far.
My mom did too. But
and so, I mean, 6 hours is still doable versus New Orleans. Like,
yeah, that's what, like at least 12.
Like, that's super far. Mm-hmm. And mind you, again, and it's not even saying she's foreseeing or whatever. This was before Katrina happened. Oh, I mean, I feel like I always wanted to go there though. Maybe we had the conversation.
I'm sure it was post Katrina, but
no,
there have been other hurricanes, but not as impactful.
I think because of Katrina, sorry, not before, but I think because of Katrina, that was what was used against me to like, because and that was like
moving to New Orleans and that being.
Yeah,
I get it.
That was a deterrent, so I should say that, not before, because yeah. So that was on one of the child.
You wouldn't be so old so bad.
I wasn't in high school by then, or maybe I was, but either way, that was on the list of like why you can't go there. So I knew at least it had to be an HBCU. Or at least that's what I wanted, and I applied to so many schools. But the thing was, I applied to schools on Free College Week because there was a Free College Week. Mm-hmm. thankfully. And I called I think I stepped out, called my friend, was like, hey, where do you go to school again? And they told me, and this was my friend from middle school, which I was going to ask you, are you still friends with anyone from your childhood? Because and that's how I ended up going to Elizabeth City State University because of my friend. And I was like, it's far enough, and it's an HBCU, so thank you. And I mean, I didn't really understand until like I really, really got there and got into it. I was like, oh, this feels good.
When I tell you, it's like if you never get the opportunity to go back to the motherland, going to the HBCU is
closest, yeah. I would agree.
Because it's like it does feel like a nice warm hug when you get there and you see not only your peers but your elders and people all in between just there for you for the most part. Because we are going to get into that financial aid just for a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree. I agree with what you said as far as like I feel as if every turn,
because it is a community.
It's just like from the people that are feeding you, from the campus police, like you have it. At least I had it in my mind, in my heart. Like nothing was never ill intent. Nothing was never malice. And not saying this anybody else experience. I know I got a different experience. I'm not gonna say what school, university my friend attended, and we were friends from high school, but they attended PWI, and they had a BSU. So like their Black Student Union, it was nice. They had a building. That was their community. But I'm like,
that's like you have a building as opposed to having the whole campus,
right? And so that
a city, depending on.
And that's the thing. I was just like, oh, this is cute, but this is my life. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I don't understand it because I was like, oh,
what do you always say? Go where you are. What?
That's my.
And HBCU is where you are celebrated. Not saying that you're celebrated at PWIs. Not saying.
But there's like,
knowing
we know
how white spaces tolerate
absolutely
Black and brown bodies.
Absolutely.
Whereas that is, I guess, what the HBCU experience is going where you're celebrating and actually feeling like, wow.
And this conversation could be like go on and on. This conversation could go on and on and on because it's like there was this recently something came up on social media and someone was talking about like it was a white man who was saying that he gets nervous whenever he sees a Black pilot, and it's like, is this for? Did you get this for affirmative action or whatever? And my thing is like, and like many people have mentioned in the comments, because we have been so conditioned that we have to work 10 times as hard, we're probably more overqualified than all of you that have done this. That have skated by.
We are, because y'all like to do that all the time and like to, we have to question your expertise because we don't see y'all as being very smart. We don't see you as intelligent beings to get to the levels that we just feel that we deserve. And it's like the racism is just so blatant, and it's like y'all don't even understand how ridiculous and absurd and audacious you sound when you talk about other human beings because you don't see us as human, because you never have. But that's another story for another video, because that really frustrates me, because it's always us saying, hey, we're human too, and they be like, human? We treat dogs better than we treat y'all. Honey, we will go out here and wrestle a python before we feel safe or comfortable around in y'all's neighborhood. We will be out here with the bears and the tigers and the lions and the stingrays and the sharks.
Everything.
And be in volcanoes and off cliffs and hanging off. They will do. Yeah. I'm sorry. Let me not.
Let's just get back. That's how I ended up at my school. And I love it. I think it was one of the best choices ever. Best choices I've ever made in my life. I wouldn't change a thing. Who said that? That came from a show.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know a thing. I wouldn't. Oh, Kiki. Our good girl, Kiki. I wouldn't know a thing. I wouldn't change it. I mean, because it's. Yeah, I just.
Sorry to the PWI.
Every experience. I mean,
not really.
Yeah, not really. Absolutely not really. I mean, if I get there for work, that's different, you know. But outside of that, I'm like where all my loyalty lies. And like I said, when you go to a HBCU, it's like everything just seems
it's an
right.
experience rather than an opportunity. Or it's an experience and it's an opportunity.
Absolutely. Was there any one from your childhood friend? Do you have any childhood friend that you still keep in contact with, like George? I think George mentioned. The friend that they stood in graduation line with, and George felt at the moment like, I'm never gonna see this person again. Mm-hmm. I love you. We're gonna go our separate ways because this was the child, and that's how it is at that point. It's just like
once we separate, how are we gonna keep up with each other because we don't see each other every day?
Right. Yeah. Do you have any friends that you still keep up?
Now, I'm not gonna say it like that. I went to a wedding of an old friend in high school, like at the end of 2022. Mm-hmm. But in terms of me keeping up with these people, no.
Yeah, I mean,
but I also didn't have many friends in high school because I was again going to
middle school.
Oh, middle school was first.
Oh, so no.
No.
Okay. So I have two friends in particular
that you keep up with.
That we stay a little in contact. It's not as much. Right. It's not as much as I would like. But that friend that I talked about that got me to go to Elizabeth City, we keep in touch here and there. That's Brian, and yeah, I love Brian so much. I'll send Brian this episode. But yeah, like we keep in contact. We had a lot of similarities. And it's just like I'm just gonna keep it there. I'm gonna keep it there, keep it cute. We have a lot of similarities. We also got a friendship tattoo. Started it, so we're gonna we probably need to finish it, Brian. Let me know.
That's cute.
But we went from this was actually so it's funny because I think this was my sister's friend before it was my friend, and my sister was like, "You're my brother. You should be my brother." So he was a year.
He's older than you?
Yes, he was a year ahead of me. So Brian started. That's why Brian started at Elizabeth City before I did, and I called Brian like while I was in high school, like, "Hey, what school?"
And your sister's just a year ahead of you.
Yeah,
she's just a late birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then my friend Elaine. So those are my two friends, and then Elaine came in high school. Similarities, and and what I said mainly, most of the similarities are like church religion and just like living up, stuff like that. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I don't keep up with
anybody. But as you know, and as you said, and as you alluded to, I make a lot of friends.
Yes, he does. He's very good at it, and I'm learning from him. Like, he's very charismatic. He's very networking. He's good, and I'm like, definitely want to keep someone like that around so I can learn, see.
I just be trying to meet the people.
I don't, which is again why you have all those. I don't. Okay. I mean, I keep up with one friend from like elementary school here and there. Mm-hmm. He was my best friend in third grade to me. I don't know how he felt, but he was my best friend in third grade.
That reminds me I need to try to find this one person because I remember her like that. When I say my friend from like elementary, she was my friend. I remember her name and everything. I don't want to mention it, but I remember her name. I remember her. Oh, I'm just looking at my question. I'm like, that's a good one.
George mentioned how they, and we kind of touched on this before, but their intention on going to university was to find a sense of freedom from being in the closet at home and having so many different identities of being Matt and being George to where he could basically amalgamize all that into one being. Mm-hmm. At least that's what I got from what they were saying. Mm-hmm. And did you find any source of new freedom, new identity when you were able to transition? Or was it just, yeah, or was it just like, I was me then, I'm me now? It's like, not really.
I mean, I had like a mind. So when I was in high school, I never was like, oh, I'm gay, I'm here, I'm queer. But when I got to college, it was still somewhat the same because I did feel like it was a family. But I got so busy doing stuff. Like I ran for SGA when I got there. I was like freshman SGA. I lived, like when I say lived in the library. I know the library staff. Okay, they knew me.
And see, he's such a great student.
Freshman year.
He's such a great student.
Freshman year, okay? Let me tell you. But which is how I met one of my friends, who's still my friend today, and I'm gonna talk about her too.
But as for me, it was like whoosh. I stepped through a threshold.
But see, if I may add, I feel like your university and where you were in that location was prime for that.
Well, yeah,
I was still in
part of why my
South.
spirit was just like, let's go. I mean, to be fair, it's still in the South.
What school?
Howard. It's below the Mason-Dixon line. It's still considered the South. I'm not saying it's a Southern school, or I'm saying it is a Southern school. I'm not saying it's not a deep South school.
I highly disagree.
It's not country.
I highly
it ain't Northern.
Disagree. I highly
you can
disagree.
Because
we can have this poll.
As
a matter of fact, when the episode come out, I'm gonna ask the people on the Twitters and the YouTubes and the Instagram.
You can do the poll on.
I highly disagree. I need to know.
We talked about this on campus.
I need to know because and all y'all are wrong if y'all did not say.
I'm listening. Please enlighten me real quick.
That's not the South.
Because we were talking about geography.
Geography in my mind, no. And on top of that,
I believe we talked about this when we went to DC with your friend, our niece. Hello.
We can talk about it. Call her now. Call that whore now. Fucking die. Let me see if she's busy. Because, I mean, she might be featured on episode. Why not? All right.
Sorry, friend.
You go ahead and enjoy the rest of your evening. You look good. You look blessed.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I can't wait to see you again.
Hi, man.
Hi, friend.
Hi. Are you busy? How do you feel about that, friend?
I disagree.
Thank you!
How are y'all disagreeing with geography?
Because Elizabeth City State University is in the South, baby.
I didn't say. Y'all act like it's because.
I know people, their thing with the map is like DC is like technically under the Bears.
That's all I said. I didn't say it's like, oh my gosh, they be serving all types of da da da.
You talk about Southern people. Southern people do not include us.
I would have never. When I say a million, I could have been on the show and they said for all the money in the world. I've never even heard or seen the map that included y'all in the South. Thank you so much.
Thank you, friend. You're so nice.
We'll see you sometime soon.
You see how it's biased? They in cahoots. They in cahoots. An old colleague of mine, I messaged him to see what he thought. And he said something that was wild for me, because he said, oh, geographically, I don't consider DC the South, but in terms of aspects of the culture, he does. It's like a northern southern type of mixture. And I was like,
you know what? I can respect that. I can understand that twang. I understand, but again, a part of that, I think, because like a lot of people have mentioned, or at least from what I know, like my Aunt Maddie. I would love for you to meet my Aunt Maddie.
Oh yeah,
my Aunt Matt, like they have Southern roots, so it's just like for them to relocate up there.
And I would say DC has Southern roots because country does. To be fair, it's just the way it has developed a lot.
So what is the North? Can we just define what is the north? Because I don't
It's
know.
above the Mason-Dixon line. Everyone knows that. Which is like Maryland down is the South. Geographically and technically. Now, would Southerners actually include anything above Virginia? No.
Okay, well, let us continue.
You
What's
did
the
all
question?
this.
It's not the South.
You did all of that.
I don't care about what the lies the people is telling the people.
And to be fair, a lot of people don't even consider North Carolina that deep in the
that's
South.
a lie.
We know that.
That is a lie.
Oh, but that could be a lie. But geographically, of course, we know North Carolina's in the South. And that's all I said.
Okay.
Anyway, digress. I found my new power when I went off to college to be me and express myself because I had never done it. And I was like, I'm ready to get out here to see how I am, how I exist in this world, how I find identity in myself in this place. And I did. There was some backlash. There were some people at school that were just like, because I was on the apps. Because that's how a person like me found a way to get out. To do adult things. They were like, how can you be out here with your face out? You know, people be looking. I'm like, aren't we tired of hiding? How long do you want to hide? How long do you want this charade to go on?
Honey, that might need to be the title.
I don't feel like I don't know if it's worth it for this to carry on. I don't know. That's not healthy for me. So I was just like, there's still shame a little bit. And when I went to my next HBCU, I went right back into the church.
So yeah, for me, it's funny because George also mentioned like I blame her for the breakup and all that stuff.
Well, before they knew.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like all this is a moment in time. Remembering that particular, I want to say that might be the first album that I don't know if I bought. I do remember having a copy. I might have a copy around here somewhere. I remember the album. I remember because I always.
Is that your first album that you ever bought?
I don't know because I feel like I remember. Oh, this came before Destiny Fulfilled because they came back together. Maybe. I don't remember buying it. I believe this may have been my first album.
I remember my first album. It was Mary.
Oh, I feel like this was, come on, Mary. This may have been my first album, and I'm pretty sure I played that sucker in the ground. Okay, I mean, oh my gosh, like it was a moment. Yeah, and I mean, for me, I feel like it was no skips. I can't think.
A skip. I still have a skip.
Only one that I could think of. Possibly.
And I'm sorry, I know it's probably people's
hip hop player.
It's hip hop star.
A hip hop star, but he's like player, pimp. Yeah, I get that.
I always skip it.
It's not my favorite.
Have it on my
it's probably the bottom of the list. Yeah, they could have probably kept that one off.
I just don't care.
I agree.
I can listen to it. It's just it don't do that.
It's not like I'm going to say, "Oh, let's play hip hop star." You know what I want to hear?
Play every other track on that bitch. I'm talking about from Bonnie and Clyde to Daddy to A Gift from Virgo. I believe harmony is a colors. Everything I paint sharpens my harmony. Yesterday I tried to paint you, but the colors weren't beautiful.
Okay.
Your love goes beyond what I can say. Love, Beyonce. I ate that album, but not hip hop star.
Yeah, I can see that. You see, I went directly
and
to
it was
it, right?
Andre.
You see, I went directly to it, right? Yeah. Okay, but yeah, I think I loved everything about it. Even before I knew the magnitude of her having Luther Vandross on it. I just knew it sounded good. I didn't know.
And I love the extended version slightly.
I didn't know. Like, I mean, that for your debut?
Because
when we talk about,
when I tell you they ate that song up,
but when we talk about
and
like
they just vibing off each other.
Here's a
Oh, they would just get. I said,
She was
These
made for
people
this.
out here, what are you doing? And she continually, she needs a whooping. That's all I'm gonna say. She needs a whooping. You need a whooping, Miss Knowles Carter.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Because how dare you?
But yeah, I can't. I just feel like it was a good album. I don't know. I think I just loved everything. I'm honestly I'm gonna say most of all eras. I can't really think of a time I'm like, I don't fuck with her. That's never been me. And that's why I asked you, when was your realization? Because for me, I'm telling you, like right now, my mom will tell you, I've been obsessed with them forever, even since Destiny Child. I remember like even being asleep, and I don't know how I heard a Destiny Child song on the TV. I woke up out of my sleep like, oh yeah. Like I love those women. So
I couldn't get, especially with, I want to say Survivor.
Oh my God! Don't say it. Clench his pearls.
Because what song was it that was so annoying? It's that like.
I didn't say every song was a hit, but I know what song you're talking about. Oh wait.
Yes. Oh, I said.
I remember that
song is so annoying.
But you know what I think about in that time, and then even like when we think about and reflect to this moment, it's just like it was a time of experimentation and like.
I mean, it always is.
Yeah, but like at the same time, there was like Beyonce was in the studio, and Beyonce was like had her pen. And it was like, I'm gonna try it, and I hear these things in my head. I wanted to make sense, and we're just gonna make some magic.
That's
and
what you do.
I love it
to this day.
To this day.
I'm glad you know.
Okay, but yeah, that was my memory. The other question I had, and I guess these go hand in hand. We just need to start bundling these up.
It's okay.
Did you have? And I guess this is funny, but did you have any life plan? Did you have life planned out at that point?
I've never had life planned. Even then, where it's like, oh, I have an avenue. How that looks has always been great.
Before I knew what life really was, I just knew I was going to be a doctor by 25.
I mean, I was like, oh, I'll be an architect because everyone keeps saying, oh, you like architecture, you like drawing, you like cities, you like buildings, you like houses. And I'm like, right. How I get there, I don't know. Because I know what I like to do, but the work involved, I've always just skirted off the basics for me. And that is not good enough for when you need to excel.
I feel like I tried to always be 10 times ahead of the steps.
Clearly.
And then, even when I talk about my advisor that taught me how to tie, he used to tell us all the time, like, you gotta have plan A to Z, and then when you get to Z, you need another plan. You know how Excel spreadsheet go from A, B, A. You gotta have the plans ready, because if A fail, what you got next? So that's always been in my head, like even before I met him. But like I always thought, like I gotta have plan B, right? So now it's just like,
you know, I've been winging it since before I graduated high school.
You ever seen that clip of them talking to Jim Jones and his girlfriend at the time, and she was like winging it, and she was like,
"Who is them?"
I gotta find it and I'll show you because somebody in the comments know what I'm talking about. But she was like, "That's what the fuck winging."
You mean Chrissy?
Chrissy.
So this one is in reference to Beyonce. They were like, I want it to be me dancing to her. Because they mentioned how a part of them thought like, oh, I want to be Beyonce. And they were like, no, I don't want to be Beyonce, but I want to be me dancing to her. And I thought that was very poignant to mention, because like I feel like a lot of people feel that way. At least I identify with that, where it's like, I see your expression of just being and how you can just move your body and just
move your body. Okay, go ahead.
Included.
I was about to say, as a foreshadowing, even though this book didn't know at the time, but I'm just saying like of what Renaissance was to come,
what it was about to do,
what was about to happen. But it's crazy because
revving up
again, like you said, like George seen in that moment.
Exactly.
I guess you could say like
all this ties in.
Yeah, I guess it's like a sense of like freedom and being who you are. And I
Mhm.
know from the movie, Beyonce mentioned this, like, I want Renaissance to be. I think she mentioned three things. I remember her saying like, you feel like you're your childhood self, your child. I don't know if she said childhood self or like childlike self, maybe. Feel like you're your sexiest, and just talking about freedom. Because when you think about, again, God knows this is all tiny. It's like all these things are crossing over, but it's like George is talking about in the book about freedom and being who they want to be, and just saying like, I wanted to dance and be her, and then like you just pointed out, like, I wanted to be myself dancing. And
Which
it's like,
is
it's a
great
freedom
timing.
of when you could just be, and there's nothing. You know what I
And
mean?
so
like,
with that, it was
go ahead.
like,
I'm sorry.
now we've seen people, for a long time, attempt to imitate or copy someone else. But when George said that statement, that again tying into Renaissance was this perspective for me where it's just like you are your best when you can just embrace you.
Mm-hmm.
But was there ever a time where you wanted to be someone else?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
There ever a time?
Or did you have a time where you was truly like, I'm in the skin I'm in and I'm loving
Those are two great questions. I mean, and again, what this particular chapter is, and I think we're going to get to this in a moment, just a moment. I can't say, and again, I think about this makes me reflect on the relationship with my father and all this stuff and all this trauma. And trauma. Okay. I always think about like a part of being in the South for me was a bit of a prison, and I think about deeply about what that looks like, and so sometimes I don't think I ever get ashamed or upset by anyone that has been that is themselves. You know what I mean? I think I admire it so much because I'm always thinking about like how much strength that takes. Like, you are dressing up because it feels good. It's not even about anything else. It's not about
about what
defining
this person
or
thinks I look like in
yeah,
this.
it's
It's just like
this.
because
I
I like
like
it.
this. It feels good, and so sometimes even something as small as, and I'm going to work on it. And part of it is like because poverty is real. I just haven't had a chance. But like even something is like an expression of like getting your nails done and stuff like that. I'm not saying I'm not gonna come out here like with these claws, but like even the guys
Even if
that
you did want to, it's like
what's wrong with that? Like, that's what I want to do. But like, even the guys that are like, I'm gonna get the design and do whatever. I'm like, I haven't even really felt free to do that. And the crazy thing is, like, my sister is state certified.
She really is.
She
really is. Been there.
Yeah, like,
Get some
I
treatment
forgot
done.
the proper term, but yeah, she's
it's not nail tech.
Nail tech. Yeah, like she's
I don't know what the umbrella for that.
Yeah, like, but she's a certified. And I mean, I paid for somebody else to get their stuff done. I never got.
You didn't go?
I've never. I mean, she still has like all the material.
I mean, of course
I go tonight, if I want to.
I mean, I'm just like, what?
But that's what I'm saying. It's like she does the things and she does them well, and like she's always.
Have you had a manicure?
I've had a manicure in my life. So funny thing enough. Speaking of this, like my mom's first girlfriend or whatever, got me a manicure and a pedicure like the first time I came home because my GPA was so great. And she's like, I just want to treat you out. It was like the first time. But outside of it, I'm just like, I admire that. So those are the things that I'm just like, I admire. So I don't think I ever wanted to be someone. I think I've always admired the freedom and the strength and what these people have. And like sometimes even with me now, and I don't know if I told you this and I'll talk about it here, even with me talking to people, because you may or may not have learned through the conversation that we have and talk about, like I do rideshare. And so like it's getting a lot for me to be comfortable just talking about doing rideshare or whatever. But it's a part of like when I'm talking about this podcast to people and people are like, oh, what is it about? So it's like I still somewhat take a side and I'm like, we're two black gay men, and we talk about this and like we talk.
That side is needed to just be like,
I'm safe. I'm okay with who I
okay.
am, and I'm confident who I am. So I'm talking about like the authors that are the people that they are. But it's like, why? Because it's like, I don't want to lead with we're two friends that are discussing LGBT authors. Because like, why would y'all do that? Because we are two men who are two black gay men who identify in this community, and we want to shed light on this community in their work. Amplify. So yeah, so it's just like, I that if anything, it's not like a person that I ever wanted to be. It was more so like the energy and the positivity. Mm-hmm. It's like right now, like, I mean, and again, I want to literally physically give flowers, but as much as admiration and showing light, because I think this book is just amazing. George in these outfits that George Slay doing,
now they be doing that.
Have you seen? I mean, the post. I'm like, first of all, it's like when we say, the black community, like, you got that shit on, like, baby, you're wearing it. You are wearing the things. I'm just like, it looks good.
We do black appropriation.
We gonna do the big thing. Like, you're doing your big one, and it's just like, you look good. It's not like, because that's nothing. It's not like you coming out looking horrible. Like, you're looking great.
That's what I'm saying. When we say it, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So it's just like. Like, you are slaying, but then it's just also like just the strength to just come out to be yourself and do what you want to do. It's just like, I live for it. I'm like, like I would, and it for me technically is not anything that I want to like wear or be like that, but it's just like, I admire that. I would say that
someone,
a person
that you saw, like growing up or like when you were younger, that like exemplified that well.
I think, because I was always in church, I think the only thing that, like I said before, that made me want to go to Elizabeth City and HBC that I could think of, like, honestly, was okay. Because I didn't know everything at the time like we know now. But I'm just saying, like, of what they stood for and what their legacy was, I'm just like, you are a very dope person. And not even thinking about, I hate to say this and it's the truth, but I didn't know because we don't talk about it. But is it? And I'm about to mess up the name.
It's okay. It's
Rustin.
Bayard Rustin.
There we go. Didn't know about this hero. You know what I mean?
A lot of us don't, because they don't teach us the history.
Exactly,
especially when you start adding different types of
labels and layers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's just like, but at the end of the day, what I love about it the most, which again, I want to use the word it sucks, but it's like that the life, or like they like to say, the lifestyle had nothing to do with the work that this person was putting in every day, and it's just like
there's a term for that too, where it's like some people try to use certain parts of identity to discredit and to shame other people from like a greater good.
Yeah.
And whether it's being, a woman or someone that is female presenting or someone that's in the community or someone that's disabled, it's like you aren't good enough if you aren't able-bodied and within these
parameters. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I can't really say outside of MLK that I knew of at the time. First thing that came to mind was, I was like, I'm not trying to make it a majors situation. I was never in the idea of I could do that. I just thought the mission and the goal before Obama, I was like, oh, that's gonna be like, I almost like every child. I'm like, I'm gonna be the first black president.
Yeah,
like,
we always talked about it.
And I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna do it well, not knowing everything again. And I'm just like, that was my only role model. I mean, in person, I feel like I had a lot of disappointment in person.
Yes. And that's real.
But yeah, I can't think of like, that was just it. I'm just more so attracted to energy and like what you do and like the mission and goal. Outside of that, no, I think it was maybe a lady. She was a family friend. I would say she was well off. She took a liking to my mom and she was very helpful. And that was, to my memory, she was one person that had her stuff together. She just dressed well, smelled good. One thing, you couldn't tell me that she wasn't rich, but I think that was the first time I saw, and I mean, my mom may have to like either back this story up or let me know, but I know she didn't. She may have been like a caseworker or something for us, but like she was a person that was helping us with something in Turn Family, like very cool. And but that was the first time I started getting it in my head that like you don't necessarily have to drive your money. You know what I mean? She had a car. Maybe it was a Toyota Camry. It was a Honda or something. But if you saw her, you like, oh, she owns the place. She's the CEO. But her vehicle, boss and CEO. But her vehicle was like, she took well care of her vehicle. I think her car had over 200,000 miles. Worked like a dream. But she made sure she kept up with the maintenance, and it wasn't like but it wasn't like it was a flashy car. It had to be a flashy car.
Oh, it don't need to be.
But when I say that's what quote unquote the people do, especially the people that have money.
But the people that don't, there's people that don't know.
Yeah.
Where it's just like you feel like this is a way to show off your wealth.
Yeah.
Rather than showing off your wealth in who you are.
Yeah.
Not what you have materially.
And I was gonna say, I want to say that's the. And again, I'm always a graceful person. I want to give grace to where who deserves it. But at the same time, it's like some people don't know.
You know what I mean?
And it's just like this is what I've seen, and this is what I know,
and this is what I was taught.
Right. So for me to see her, like I said, even before I knew what car she was driving, I'm just like, this lady is fly. She was very helpful because I did get the understanding.
And she had information to give her that wisdom to be able to
express herself. So I would say probably her. I can't think of anybody else. Maybe that was like multiple years and stuff like that. What about you?
As for me, I forget what questions I asked you.
The question was kind of like, was there anybody?
No, the one before that.
Oh, I thought it was a question.
Anyway, but as far as you were saying, we were talking about like being someone else. There were times where I wanted to not be me, not necessarily be someone else, because I always understood the value of uniqueness, but I didn't understand how to bring out my own uniqueness within my own skin. It's only been recent years, starting I would want to say around 2017 is when I was really like, oh, I am not going anywhere. I may as well really find an understanding of who this person is and express that person, because I can't be anybody else. You know how they're like Michael Jackson and Elvis and Beyonce impersonators? It's like, but who are you? Because they are already who they are. There already is a Michael Jackson. There already is a Whitney. These people already exist. And you can always be inspired by someone, but then to go to the lengths of wanting to imitate them, again, it's like, oh, this person is inspiring to me, but I'm like, okay, but then how do you? I would say there's this one singer that was popular on the internet for being able to sound like this very, very famous singer, but when this person tried to like bring out their own stuff, it didn't sound distinguishable. And it's like, yeah, because you've shaped so much of your identity into this other person, you haven't been able to form your own sense of sound. And I've always been like, that's interesting. And things I've always said before, one of the biggest attractors to me, and I want to say for most people, is confidence. And not arrogance, because they can be confused.
Yeah.
Because even people that are running for president right now are very arrogant people, but they're clearly very insecure people. And people like to confuse that arrogance with confidence. Like, oh, this person knows what they're doing. It's just insecurity being given off as arrogance, which you interpret as confidence. But anyways, there was this girl in high school. I'll actually give her a shout out. Her name was Ife Michelle.
Love the name.
She is of African background. I don't know where though, but I believe her family is African. And every time I saw her, and I'm very much in the family. But I was just like, she is one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen in my life. Now, conventionally, she did not give in terms of how the global society would view her, because she was dark skinned, thicker, black girl. And then she had a gap in her teeth. I thought all of that about her was beautiful. But I'm like, in the eyes of society, I know they wouldn't treat her the same way. But she carried herself so well. And it's not that, and she was very expressive, but it's not that she was like ostentatious about it. She was just like, I'm me. I love me in my skin. I know I'm beautiful because I choose to be. I believe I'm beautiful. And I was like, for someone to be with all of that there and to still just be like, I'm all that. And I was like, wow, she is remarkable. And I understand why she brings all the boys to the yard. Because I'm like, girl, you are fine. And I wasn't trying to say any of that to be a dig. I'm just saying how people like, oh, conventionally light skinned, thin, blah, blah, blah. She was like, I'm none of those things, and I'm still fine. And it's like, you sure are. Last time I checked, she was like teaching dance classes. I don't know because I haven't been on social media like that. But if she's still out there, please check her out. Please, I always want to support Black business. But I was like, wow, you are just outstanding to me. She was the head of our color guard because I want to say we met in band, but I want to say I knew her maybe from another class before then or something like that. But she led them well, and I'm just like, dang. Whatever she had, I want some of that because she is just she's cozy, she's comfortable, and I'm glad to know that for myself now. I'm still learning a lot, but as for me just expressing myself and not having the fear of being perceived all the time, love it.
The question is, have you ever heard that song? Will I ever leave you? Answer is no.
Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I'm acting like I don't know where I came from. I know.
I was gonna say, we gotta listen to this song. Okay. So sorry. My next question is, when did it set in? Because this is in reference to when George's mom is quiet, and they're about to leave, and she's like, I know you're not coming back home after you graduate. She's dealing with the reality of things. So I want to ask you, as it relates. Oh gosh, I want to ask you, when did it set in for you about being an adult or adulthood? Like, this is it.
Last year.
Oh,
I know, isn't it crazy? I felt like I've been a 14 to 16-year-old for so long. I've aged.
Was there a certain thing that was like,
yeah, life, going through, and mainly not only experiencing life for myself, but also listening to the stories of other people. And I'm an extremely curious person, to me. So I ask my family members a lot about how they get through, especially hard times. 2023 was a hard time. I've discussed it. But I've had to ask my mom, my dad, my grandparent, or my grandma, my aunts, my cousins, my uncles. I said, how did y'all get through this time of your life with all that y'all had? Because by the time my mom was the age I'm at now, she had 2 kids by herself. And is still having to take care of everything. I said, how do you do it? Because I am now realizing, like, oh God, this is a lot, and it's just me. There's that. I'm asking them questions like that, and I'm also just seeing how our generation, being millennials, I know I'm a late millennial, but still a millennial. It's like we're realizing, oh, we're now the aunties and uncles. We're not the target audience anymore because being on social media, I see a lot of us like, y'all, people think we old, and it's like, yeah, a lot of the music that we like is like 20 years old, y'all. 2000, the 2000s was like 20 years ago,
and you don't realize just how much time flies.
And that's why I'm like, we are transitioning. Yeah, I mean, so this whole adulthood thing, I've been skirting by. Like I said, I'm like, oh, I actually am grown. I'm an adult. I have big bills. I have responsibilities. So that me. What about you?
Yeah, I think for me it was really just like the management of a household and.
So when did it kick in? How old were you?
Probably when I got my first apartment. I think up until that point, it was like real quote unquote support, and not realize. And not saying I don't have support to this day. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. But I'm just saying, like, when it was like, I don't want to, like, I shouldn't say burden, but like, I felt like it was truly my responsibility of I asked for these things and I'm gonna make it happen. And then also, yeah, just I think just dealing with things on my own to like solve them and to make things right. And it's just like I have to figure this out. And yeah, I mean, but only thing I want to add to that, I know that our like parents and adults around us like have done things, but at the same time, like if we're being realistic, the times are different.
I'm not one. I wasn't really comparing. Like,
okay.
I'm saying in terms of what responsibilities you had. Of course, things are totally different now with what we have to pay for, the rates of things. But imagine that. Imagine now having kids.
Yeah, my sister. Bless her heart.
I know. I'm like, I would probably be grayed out to the max. I'm like, wow. I can't imagine.
She's a strong black woman. Yeah.
And I'm like, people just be having kids. My sister is pregnant again. I'm like,
it's almost like.
Are you crazy?
It's almost like once they start the door, the floodgates are open.
How can you have a child now?
I will say this what I've heard. I will say this what I've heard and what I learned, and it's funny because I don't want to go down the path, but I will say this. For some people, okay, your sister. For some people, it does unlock something for them. So the same way that I'd be like, oh, I'm tired, I come back home and I don't want to job no more. So I'm like, I'm gonna push through this, and I'm gonna like make money, because I've heard the stories of like, yes, I want to be here, so I'm gonna come to your games, and I've seen it. Like I said, my sister, shouts out to her. It's like I gotta work. My child got a game. I gotta go show face. I gotta go support. Then after I get you home, get you fed, I gotta go back to do some work because I gotta provide. So I've heard. I don't necessarily know because the only parent I have is I'm a parent.
And I mean, I've lived, as a child under that, where.
But it's still not the same pressure. Like from viewing it to. Oh, I
was experiencing it. I just wasn't the one in charge. That's what I'm saying. It's like I saw my mom having to figure out. I got to go to work, so you need to make sure you're out to catch the bus because I have to go to work, and then you're gonna be home by yourself because I'll be at work. Yeah. And when you get home, the lights may be off. Yeah, the water may be cold because I have to go to work and pay these bills. Yeah. And I have other things to do, so you may have to take care of yourself for a little bit. I'm going to do the best I can to be there for you, but I'm also doing everything I can to make sure that you are taken care of. that you have something to eat, you have a roof over your head, that you feel some type of love. I always felt love. Now, the difference between you and I can see now that we were definitely poor, but I didn't realize we were poor until much later.
I think sometimes, I guess living in it, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, at some points, I'm like, because on top of that, everybody around us is poor. Whether we want to admit it or not.
Well,
I grew up in the projects.
They were, well, like I said, my mom loved to skirt. She was like, I don't want you to be in it because I don't want to be in there.
Yeah.
But we gonna definitely be right here. If this is the projects, we are on the line.
Yeah.
Now we were definitely in the project when I was little, but we got out of that quick. She was like, we gotta find another way. I can't live like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that my question?
That was my question.
Oh, well, I only have one other point here.
I had like a few, but we're gonna run through them.
I'm about to say that's fine. But just to piggyback off what you were saying, because I wrote this down, I said the moment of being free, yet the uncertainty of how to exist in it, how to visibly exist while accepting identity in the midst of oppression. And that going off of just us finding freedom with the skin we're in. How do you express yourself as a person that is in the community, knowing the history and the discrimination that you're faced with, showing that. And I just wrote down that point. But my last thing, this quote from George that said, "The thing you're trying to hide is usually what you give off the most." And Lord knows, for me, because of all the shame from what I believe, from what the church told me about who I was supposed to be, from our family told me who I was supposed to be, my friends, society, I tried to put on that straight, because I'm not gonna say ODL because I was not. Well, I was a little bit, but that was because of ignorance, and I have had to forgive myself many times because of that, because I know I hurt people, because I was a hurt person, but also didn't know any other way. I thought, well, maybe if I can just put a mask on it, it'll go away. Maybe if I can pray it out, it'll go away. But cranes in the sky. Again, back to those nose girls. But it's just like,
that's a no.
But it's like, I still got clogged, but getting clogged. And it's being like, dang, I still don't feel like I have a place here. So yeah, I know I knew I tried to mask it because I'm like, oh gosh, I want to be safe in my own skin and in my own spaces, but also it is what it is.
Yeah,
if my voice is high, oh well. If I got a little sugar in the tank, oh well. I'm a Cube Boy.
Cube Boy, okay? I'm a Cube Boy. I guess that's fun. The funny thing is, like, I feel like as much as I like to talk, I like to communicate. As I was in school, I was always a new kid, so I would always try not to talk. I felt like I knew my voice was just the bane of my existence. Like, that was the easiest way.
Yeah.
And then when it went off into sports, like, are you going to play basketball? Are you going to play football with us? No. Like, that's nasty. That's gross. I sit on the side. I'm gonna be with the girls.
I remember going to the cookouts.
I could turn the thing, the double dutch. I wasn't even that good of a quote unquote gay to jump it. Like, I could jump a little bit, but I wasn't the best.
I could. Not to get in between them.
Honey, yeah, okay. It was like, get in, and then like once I got in, I got to keep going. Yeah, it was like, dang, am I gay? Like, what is this? Like, this is why I was different, like a different kind of boy.
Yeah.
Which that was always the theme throughout this book, almost as well as like the differences. Like,
all boys aren't blue. we gonna do it every time.
So, yeah, that was for me, and I think probably the thing that I think about the most was like my voice and then mannerisms and how I acted, how I was around other people.
I
So
think we talked about it before, but I definitely got in trouble for a little bit of time because I've been the wrist for a little bit, and it was like, you boys do not do that. Oh, thank you. You shamed it right out of me. I'm never gonna do that again. Or like I was saying, we go to cookouts for friends and family, and they be like, "Well, the boys playing basketball, football. I'm gonna go in the living room and sit on the couch. I'm gonna be where the food at. I'm gonna give me a plate. Cause I'm not doing that, and I always felt so uncomfortable because I was not doing it.
it's funny. I mean, I think one of the times I got clocked, I'm trying to remember how young I was, but baby, watching Genuine slide across that dance floor and singing Pony. I'm talking about I was a little boy laying. I remember the music playing, the music video playing. I was laying on. I was small enough to be like on the arm of a chair. Mm-hmm. I think my feet was up. Like my feet was fully up behind me, feet touching. Okay, and just into it like. And I mean, I think my mom was probably alerted, like, something wrong with that boy. He a little different. Like, that sugar tank. Okay? And then, of course, everybody know, I forgot the name of it, but we all black people call it How Does It Feel? That's not the name of the Angela's video. But, baby, I was going to say unedited up, whatever. But, baby, that...
I don't think I ever got in trouble for
I felt the... And then, because my father was so religious, I'm trying to remember what was in this movie. It's been a while since I watched it, but me and my sister had to sneak and watch Players Club. I don't think I was like really. I was like, okay, but I was like, yes, you're giving, mama. Like, come on, perky titties and all this stuff. I was like,
yeah, but maybe did and that makeup is
maybe and maybe I looked at that like, oh, I want to be so desired and like feel sexy.
But again, like George was saying, it's like I wanted to be me.
Yeah.
In that same way that these people are just being themselves.
I'm trying to remember. There was a movie with the locker scene, and I remember seeing penis ass out, and I think it was like football. Somebody probably remember. Maybe it was. I forgot what movie it was. It was some movie. It was a very popular movie. But when I tell you, baby, that scene in those moments, I'm just like, oh, this does it for me. But yeah, I get it. I think again, the thing that I tried to hide most was like my voice, and like I said, sometimes I turn it on and off. It just depends on what the conversation is. Boy. And I can be like,
oh boy, do you? Y'all think anyway?
It just depends on what it is. Like it could go there. I was just gonna say, we found out that George has an Aunt Crystal too.
Yeah,
you mentioned that. That was so cute. I was just gonna also add into this is just a point I wanted to make as George was talking about going to college and the situation. Yeah, the situation with his mother having a moment. I know we're not there yet, and I know it's gonna be me and my sister, and I don't know about the other people involved, but it makes me think about my niece and nephews. I'm just like the stuff that goes on, like in college, like not the fun, but the safety aspect in. I mean, I have conversations and I try to mold them as much as I can from my perspective. But it's just like, I just think about like, even if they don't call their mama, call me. I don't care. I'm like, I'm dropping everything. I got to get there. I mean, granted, and this is where I do understand the whole situation of like how the mom feels like, I want to, if there's something you need, I got to get there. I don't care what it is. Even, God forbid, like, I don't want to do nothing bad, but it's just like, even the good things, I want to be, if I'm privy to it, I want to be there, So I think I get that aspect, but it just made me think about when that moment of like my oldest nephew now is like, if not as tall as me, getting taller than me, and I know because his father is taller than me, so I already know he's gonna be up there. So I'm just like,
my brother wears the same shoe size as me. And he's the same age as your niece.
Jesus. Yeah. So it's just like, I am bracing myself for that moment. And it's just like, and I know like in the book, like the mother knew, like, you know, I'm not going down the hall no more. It's not like my baby's down the hall. And even though, like George mentioned, my oldest baby, like that's how I feel about my niece. I don't care how old y'all can be.
That's what I told.
Y'all could be 55 and I'm gonna be how old? That's still my baby. Yeah.
I think about that often with them, but also
I'm excited for that step, but I'm just like,
I mean, I'm excited for where they're going to be taken, but also understand that they may be a child now, but they are not going to be children forever.
Oh yeah.
And I also understand.
I'm ready to have conversations with them. I have stuff like
No, I'm saying like there's just going to be a time where I'm not going to be around them all the time, and I have to let that control go. We just won't be around for whatever decision that they make when they are adults, and that is just going to have to be okay. I trust in not only how they've been raised, but in the community that they have, that they will be okay, and that whenever the time comes where I need to show up, I will be there for them. But I can't always expect myself to always be there, because some people will go above and beyond, and it's like,
I mean, listen, I don't think you understand. Like, it's to the point where
I would,
if I could. I mean, God willing, I'll be able to afford it. But I mean, if my sister is like, oh, they're going to this school, I'm like, okay, you want to build a house in that city? Let's go.
I'm not doing that, but I will. I will have a budget for when I need to fly in.
You just pop up.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's
you. You having a debate? I'll be there.
Yeah, that's the only thing about that.
You have a presentation? I'm sure I'm there.
Oh, I can't make it work. I got it. Something came up.
Just move my business.
I gotta go.
It's fine. It's gonna get done. But this I can't miss.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next question is, and you said you want to talk about this, but we're gonna talk about it now. Here it is. This is the moment. This is your moment. What is it with HBCUs and financial aid?
I want to say once again, like everything else, racism. Because
you know what, I must say I agree, because I have learned some things from financial aid people. Now, first of all, that's another thing. As far as me and my money, once I learned the system and I got stuff together, we were cool. Do you hear me? Me and the peoples was cool.
You see that whole? It's like I was talking to grown people, and I am a child still, so I could never understand. I didn't even know what to ask, because I was just like, I'm just over your baby. I don't know.
Oh wow!
What this is and how
now,
to navigate
I will
these
say, it wasn't until I got to grad school that I saw a 5-digit check. Baby, when I tell you, I was just like, oh, what's that? I can't even think of the girl name. I was feeling like she was singing that song. I'm grown now. Like, baby, I was like, I got money in the bank.
I spent it.
Okay.
I didn't put it back into those debts.
I spent so much money.
Mm-hmm. I was like,
I told my bank, I don't know if I told you, my bank called me when I made a certain transaction. They said, you've never in the history of this account spent this much money.
Is this you?
And I was walking out of the store, bags in hand. It was a store that I went to before. Honey, I spent so much money. They said, we just got an alert. Part of me wanted to lie because I was scared. I was like,
I know that's right.
What? Huh? What money? Who's did what?
But I would never in my life.
Oh, that was the same time. I went and got 4 tires, all brand new, $125 each. Oh, $500. Make sure it's the premium version. Thank you.
I want to make sure these tires will last.
Okay.
I want balance, shiny,
in rotation. Add a tip, if you will. Okay. I do money.
I'm like, just.
But yeah, I will. You know what? I'll leave it at that, because, like I said, I will, and we can talk about that off camera. Because I was gonna say, I will say I've learned some things from financial aid professionals at some of these HBCUs, and what I learned is really eye opening, and it's one of those things. Like it's
eye opening, but then it's like, oh, of course.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But I just want us to get it together. I will say that. Either way, it's a
I always
process.
want to hold the origins accountable because everything stems from the roots.
All right. So next question. I put these people name and then I just put a question. So the name that George shared was Monique. And I was going to ask you, do you remember your first college friend?
Yes. That was probably my roommate when I first went to college.
I'm sorry, I just had an idea about my first college friend.
Because we got to college early because I was in the band. Mm-hmm. So we started a week or two before everyone else started. Which that everything can be another topic for another time.
Go ahead. Hey, add it to the list because we need to.
When I tell you I lost so much weight that first week, people I went to high school, like, they also went to the college I went to, university I went to. They saw me, they're like, you are a whole different person. I was like, yeah, I went through it. But anyways, college was probably the first time I felt like I had real friends. I felt so full a lot of the time. Now, was that all genuine and all sincere? No, because I still was masking some of my identity. I was living out in certain aspects, but I wasn't living out fully. But I also felt like, oh, these people know me. They like me, and I like them, and we hang out and we talk, and we have moments and we go out. And I was like, wow, I haven't had this experience before because I didn't have it in high school. And it's not like I didn't ever have any. It's just I never felt like the friends I had, aside from my girlfriend, were my friends. I was always hanging around other people and their friends. It was like, wow. Now, did a lot of those last after I left? No. Because these people are still going through the trenches together, and I'm an outsider at this point. So a lot of those relationships deteriorated just because a lot of my fears with friendship stem from abandonment from when we did move so much when I was younger. And that affected me a lot because I could never find anybody to stick around long enough to maintain.
Maybe I had a different experience due to moving around a lot. Maybe I wanted to add friends.
Did y'all? Well, in this, we're just different people because of how your personality is, how my personality is. We stayed in the same city, but we were never in the same area. So, and it was more difficult for me to bring that along, and I'm already not a super outgoing person. Especially then, I was very shy and reserved. I can get comfortable with you and then brighten up, but not initially. And that carried over to college, where it's like, oh, these people that are my friends, we're not keeping up with each other. It's like, that hurts. But you live and you learn. And then you find real people that are able to, it doesn't matter where you go, you can still maintain and form strong bonds with people because I'm being real, you're being real, and it's sincere.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying it's like, oh, it's all their fault. That, again, I wasn't in a place of full sincerity because I didn't know if I would be accepted being all of who I was because of all the oppression and discrimination, all that. What about you?
So I was definitely about to give this title to someone else, but thinking back to like the very beginning,
and it can be multiple people.
No, I'm saying like the first person that I actually like befriended that I was like, oh, you're my friend. Willis, I would say she was my friend before. I guess I was her friend. I don't know, but we're friends to this day, so that's all that matters. It was Lauren, and yeah, Lauren came in. She was another person that was very confident. She was very confident in who she was. She came in, I think baby girl came in with like, she was like, I'm already a sophomore. It was her first year there, but her mom was an educator.
I believe
She was
so
like,
she was already, she
I
had her
took
credits.
classes. She was from DC. That's another one from DC. I think that was going to be the third one. That was going to be the third option I was going to call. But
it's fine.
We got answers.
We got answers.
But she was just very confident. She was very comfortable. Like, she knew how to navigate the campus. And I met her on the college, not the college tour, the campus tour from like freshman time.
When you have the information, you can just know how to navigate spaces rather than dropped into ignorance.
Right. But mind you, she was like second generation because her mom and dad met at Elizabeth C. University. Love story, huh? And she didn't want to go there. She didn't, but she was like, this is cheaper.
It's just financially,
smarter. Yeah.
And I have connections here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think her aunt, uncle worked there.
You had to, yeah. I knew. When you said mama and daddy, she's got a network already.
Yeah.
And she went in as a sophomore. She's fine.
I mean, credit wise, yeah.
Lauren's
she was Lauren was.
Lauren, excuse me.
I mean, no, it's Lauren. I call her Lauren. I'm joking.
Because I have a Lauren. That's what wedding I went to. Hello, Lauren. If you stumble across this, I know we don't. I did reach out to you and reach back.
But yeah, me and Lauren, I would say we've definitely grown together, learned a lot from each other, still learning a lot from each other. I literally just talked to her this week about a situation happening at our alma mater. But yeah, she was like one of the very first person I connected with. She was not a part of my library crew, so that's what I was going to talk about. It's funny that George mentioned like one of the first friends was Monique, because my friend Monique is also my friend today. And I say library crew because we were serious up in them books in the library.
Stay up in there.
And shout out to my friend Monique as well, because Monique is with a child, and Monique is
congratulations
about to have, I'm going to say,
2024,
my new
God.
nephew. Yeah.
My God, today. Good. I pray over that child right now.
Okay. So the last thing I will say, and it's like kind of a lot, but talk about Monique, then talk about Tierra. And Tierra was the friend that asked, "Are you gay?" And I think it was the whole thing of like dealing with identity and coming out and being gay on your terms. That's what I thought about. So it's like, what does that look like in general? Because I thought about this in a larger, and I think George may have mentioned this, but I'm also just going to read everything I wrote down. I say it seems like we are always on display anytime we remember someone or do you remember someone asking you do not feel comfortable sharing just yet? So
that's real and we know why.
Yeah.
One, because it's like, is this something that you're going to ridicule me about? Is this something you're going to bully me about?
Are you really a friend that I can share this with?
Or are you going to, use this against me? What are you so interested in that and knowing that information?
Yeah. And I think that for me was what made me think about it all, because it was just like, what does that information have to do with the conversation we had previously, any other conversation we have going forward? Especially if we're classmates, if we're anything, it's like, how is this going to help us?
Because a lot of times people want you to tell your personal business without them also like, this is what I'm going. You want to know all about what I got going on with me, but because I am different from, our societal norms, and it's like, why?
Yeah.
Because again, historically, that's only been used to hurt me and harm me.
Yeah. That was the last question I had, because I thought about it and I was just like, I was so interested. Because again, this was a friend that George spent most of the time with, but the question did come up, and it was just like, why do people want to know that?
Yeah.
And why is it important to them?
They be wanting to be in the business. Yeah. And it's just like, socially acceptable to ask you all of these probing questions because you're a minority. Like when white people can be like, can I touch your hair? Or like, do you have your papers? Or it's like, all that stems from this place of power. Like, you are the people that don't have a lot of power because you're within this identity. But I do.
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe I don't, but I can skirt around it better than you can. You're not as visible, or I'm not as visible as you are. So
this is true. So that's all I had.
Well,
this was quite the one.
This was gonna be another long one. Fun. But that's chapter 13.
Yes.
Also called
Setting Myself Free or Setting Myself Up.
George M. Johnson, All Boys Aren't Blue. Please check it out. We will be back with chapter 14 shortly. My name is Jeremy.
My name is Akeem.
Please like, share, comment, subscribe.
And we are the Cube Bois.
Mm-hmm. And check out our podcast,
Sweet.
Absolutely. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, all the socials, not Facebook.
And that is going to be in the description.
And look forward to Patreon.